attempting to break the blockade of Gaza. Commanders lowered themselves from the helicopters and onto the Mavi Marmara. That's the lead ship in a flotilla of 6 vessels which are carrying aid for the Palestinian territory. We can confirm that at least 2 people have been killed and more than 30 have been injured. Israeli radio is reporting the death toll may be as high as 16 people. Well, our reporter on board the ship sent this report before communications were cut.
The organizers on board the Mavi Marmara, after 2 people have been confirmed killed by the Israeli army, have now asked all the passengers to go inside. They've raised the white flag. This after Israeli commandos descended upon the ship in international water from a helicopter, as well as surrounded it by vessels from all sides. Tens of people, civilians, have been injured. There are still sounds of live fire despite the white flag being raised. Tens of people have been injured. 2 people have been killed on board the ship, which holds 600 activists, parliamentarians, women, children and the elderly, all of whom are civilians. Organizers have asked everyone to go inside, so this is where we shall head. Jamal Al-Shayal, Al Jazeera, on board the Mavi Marmara in international waters of the Mediterranean Sea.
Well, Al Jazeera's Nicole Johnston joins us now live from Gaza City. Nicole, what are you hearing from there?
The most recent reports that we've had from both Israeli television and Israeli Radio Army is that the death toll is much higher than 2. Initially, the reports were of 2 people being killed. Now we're hearing that it could be 10 and possibly higher. As my colleague said, there has been reports of a lot of injuries, more than 30 people.
Nicole, what kind of response has there been as this news has been trickling out there in Gaza City?
So far, we have had a response from Hamas. The deposed Prime Minister Ismail Haniyeh has condemned this action. He's called on the international community to intervene. And also in Gaza, the group Islamic Jihad is about to start a protest. So that's the kind of reaction that we're getting. And the mosques across Gaza City have been carrying out some readings from the Quran in solidarity for those activists who, by the sounds of it, have been injured and killed on board the Mavi Marmara.
Nicole, I believe that there was a lot of anticipation ahead of this flotilla coming over to Gaza City. Can you tell us about the preparations and what kind of expectations there were as Israel kept warning against breaking this blockade?
There was a really mixed sense of expectation. A lot of people were saying there is no way that this flotilla is actually going to make it to Gaza. Israel has said no, it's not going to happen. But on the other hand, there was still a sense of optimism and hope that perhaps this would be the time when the siege would be broken. And to that effect, preparations have been going on here for weeks. I'm standing at the port in Gaza. There's been construction work to try and prepare the port, to deepen the water, to take these ships. Also nearby, we had a welcoming committee doing work for the last few days with music and press conferences, getting some fishing boats ready to go out and hopefully meet the flotilla. All of those plans have now been put to the side, and it sounds as though in Gaza today it will be a day of protest.
And Nicole, what kind of information or lines of communication have there been from those people on the boat to people in Gaza? And is there going to be any kind of response physically from Gaza? Are politicians there actually going to get up and try and open lines of communications with Israel in any way?
We haven't had information about that yet. At this stage, it's really just statements condemning the action and as I said, calling on the international community to intervene. I think it's been very difficult for people in Gaza who have contacts on the ship to contact the ship, because from what we've heard, the lines of communication to the flotilla have actually been cut off, their internet access, their telephone access, and that's one of the reasons why the situation at the moment is so fluid. there's so much chaos and confusion. So actually knowing
Aşamadan
what's
sonra
going
neler
on,
olduğunu ve de
what's
neler
happening
olacağını
on board
kestirmek
the
de
ship
çok
is very
zor
difficult
Gazze'den
from inside
bulunduğumuz
Gaza,
noktadan ama şimdiye
up
kadar
until this point, obviously, there's been communication about the aid shipments, the aid that was on the ship, how that would arrive, what type of aid. So there has been a communication up until now.
Now, the blockade has been quite tight over the past couple of years and especially over the
özellikle bu
past few months.
yardım,
How much were these
insani
supplies
yardım
needed
vardı
in
ve
Gaza?
ne
What was the
şekilde gelecek, ne
situation
gibi
there on the
malzemeler
ground that they...
abluka çok
I'm trying to get
sertti.
a
Peki
feeling
bu
of
gelecek
what
olan
they
mesela malzemeler,
wanted or needed
yardım
from that
materyalleri
boat, and maybe a
ihtiyacın ne
sense of
kadarını
desperation that these boats
karşılayabilecekti?
actually
Çünkü
got through to Gaza.
Well, really, Divya, tight is probably an understatement when you're talking about the siege on Gaza. I mean, the situation here is dire. The United Nations calls it a humanitarian crisis. Very few supplies are able to get into Gaza. Gaza relies on illegal tunnel smuggling for a vast amount of its supplies. So the situation humanitarian-wise is difficult, which is why one of the reasons why they've been relying on this flotilla. It was meant to be carrying 10,000 tons of aid, and a lot of that aid was actually construction material, cement, prefabricated homes, water purification, things that the people of Gaza desperately need to try and rebuild the Gaza Strip since the end of the war. I mean, the UN is reporting that 3/4 of the buildings in Gaza still haven't been repaired. So the situation is very difficult. But the other very important thing to remember, aside from the aid, is the symbolic gesture of this flotilla. The sense to remind the people of Gaza that while they may feel as though they've been forgotten by the international community, that nobody cares, here is a flotilla with hundreds of activists carrying aid, trying to break the siege, to come to Gaza, to let people know that they haven't been forgotten and that the international community, or some elements of the international community, is actually here for them.
Nicole Johnston live for us from Gaza City. Thank you.